not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Hello, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's a Monday.
It's a Monday, and it's been a kind of somber weekend. On Saturday night at 9 o'clock, Nelly Eaton passed away. This girl served as a tremendous inspiration to the city of Fall River. She was able to bring together over 20,000 people to not only fight for her, but to believe in her and to take faith. She brought the best out of the people of Fall River. This has been such a tremendous and moving weekend because of this. And I honestly could not write my usual weekend flush. I had to dedicate that brief article to her and her family. My heart goes out to the family. Whether you're a born-again Christian, a Catholic, Jewish, Buddhist, whatever you may be, we all have our beliefs in the afterlife of some type, and in our own God. And I'll tell you that this girl truly represented what the Fall River motto is. Fall River motto is "We'll try." And not only did she try, she succeeded in doing something that many people in Fall River have failed to do. She brought together a community. And I want my deepest condolences to go out to the family. Tomorrow at Auckland Funeral Home, there will be a viewing, a wake, and that will be from noon to 3, I believe, and then again from 5 to 9. And on Wednesday, they will have a service at her church, which is the Grace Gospel Church, with a cremation to follow. But I don't want people to be sad over this. I want people to remember what she fought for. She remained positive in everything she said. She remained positive in everything she did. And she even took what the people of Fall River classify as a hater like myself, and reached deep down inside to make sure that I could see something positive in everything. This girl fought the good fight, and may she rest in peace and have the peace that surpasses any understanding. I know it's kind of sublime and kind of somber, but I think it really needed to be addressed before our show.
Well, yeah, well said, CJ. Obviously, regardless of what your beliefs are or lack thereof beliefs, we have to respect the fact that she fought till the end. She never gave up, and that's the way life should be lived. It should be never a spectator sport. You should be a participant. She was a participant in life, and obviously our hearts go out to her family and her extended family, because she epitomizes what everyone should be, and that's a fighter. You should fight for what you believe in, fight for what you want. And don't be a spectator. And it's a tremendous loss. It's always a loss when someone passes, but when someone that's that young doesn't get to live a full life, and she had so much potential, it's always a sad day, and it reminds us how fragile life is, and that we should be part of the fight, and we should enjoy every minute of life. And with that, we can, as I said, it's a very somber day. It was a very somber weekend. So that's there's not much else you can say about the fact is, except that she, as I said, she epitomized what people should be. She was a fighter.
I agree, Chip, and it's a sad state, and people are still coming together, and I think that's a wonderful thing. And hopefully, we take the lesson that this young lady has presented us. She was a smiling face no matter what she went through, and she was truly amazing. But now on to other not so somber issues. I'm on the agenda. And I received a phone call today from one of my lovely friends here in the city, and he's now filing requests for records, and I guess the city's not going to like me much. Not like they did in the first place, but it's getting to be rather interesting. The school committee is going to address at tonight's meeting at 5:30 at the Morton Middle School the open meeting law complaint. And they're going to do that in an executive session, which, by the way, they are legally able to do. That is a complaint against them, and they need to be able to strategize on how to defend themselves. So that is perfectly legal. The complaint, though, revolves around the fact that if you review their agendas for the past year, and even further back, but let's just go for the past year, they always open the agendas when they're going into executive session with the same statements. To review and negotiate, to review and plan out for the FREA, the FRAA, custodians, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then it says, and non-union personnel, and then it goes, then it names the people. The problem is, Mass General Law 30A specifically says that you must be specific in what you are going to discuss. So if John Smith is coming up for a job, a contract position as a, let's just say, an administrator of some type, dean of students, your favorite position, Chip. And you need to put in there that, John Smith, we're going to discuss a contract for John Smith for the position of dean of students. Instead, they put John Smith, administration. Mary Smith, physical therapy. Mary Jones, speech pathologist. You're not saying what. There is no specificity in the request for executive session. And those decisions are made by corporate counsel, Bruce Assad. So in this complaint, I not only named the school committee, I did a big one. I named the attorney because he firmly believes that we can do this. Also, under Mass General Law 30A, you can only vote on contracts in executive session for unions, for collective bargaining agreements. That's covered under the law. When you are going to negotiate a contract, you negotiate an executive session. When you vote on it for a superintendent, an assistant superintendent, an administrator, or anyone else who's non-union, you must vote on that in open session. Our school committee has always said, oh no, we never do that. We vote everything in executive session. Wrong, can't do that. And so my response for action was to have the entire school committee, the administration, and the corporate counsel go back to school and learn what Mass General Law 30A is, and act accordingly.
I'm not sure if they'll ever learn. It's a blanket cover statement, and that's what Bruce Assad's hanging his hat in. He's giving everybody they got a generic statement, like the statement it's read about. Now you can tape any public meeting according to the law. It becomes almost so routine people don't pay attention and they allow it to go on. And this is one of the ploys, which really disturbs me because, as everybody well knows, I'm a big fan of open government and transparent government. I like, I want to know what's going on. And obviously they have certain restrictions. There are things that we can't be privy to by law, such as medical records, medical issues, medical discussions about personnel discussions, contract specifics in labor collective bargaining, which is one of the reasons, by the way, what CJ says, to just clarify it a little more, to make you understand, because somebody might out there that's not familiar with the process might say, well, why can a non-union contract be voted on out in public, but you can vote for a union contract in executive session? It's because technically a union contract is not really a contract when they vote on it in executive session. It's a tentative agreement. It's an agreement between the city and a union, or the city and the and the teacher, and the teachers. It's a tentative agreement predicated on the ratification of that agreement by the affected employees, by the bargaining unit. The people who that contract affects ultimately have to approve that contract. It means absolutely nothing if the city and the bargaining committee agree if the membership votes it down. And because of that technicality, it's not really a technicality because there have been contracts that were recommended for approval that were voted down by the body. Because of that, there's also a prohibition of normally when you settle a contract, the contract is aired publicly, the conditions of the contract, et cetera. You normally read it in the paper. But obviously, if it's only a tentative agreement and it has to be approved by the affected employees, the bargaining unit, they can't do it publicly because then the reporters will want to know, well, what benefits did they get? What did you get? What givebacks? And they want to know specifics of the contract. And that's not possible until after ratification. Then after ratification, all those things are then made public. I used to get calls all the time after, when we were ratifying, have the votes been tabulated? Is the contract, has the contract been approved? And once it was approved by the body, and then the city and the unions can agree to release specifics, et cetera. So, I mean, but this gets back to a more important thing than this really, finite kind of legal thing. Gets down to a very, very simple thing. The government in this state is totally unresponsive to the people. They just don't care. They will hide and do everything behind closed doors if we let them. And the people who think this is just much to do about nothing, it isn't. It's something very, very important, because when we look at it on every level, they do everything they can to hide what they do from us, the people who are supposed to run this state, who they are accountable to and answerable to at all times. The DOR, we can segue into the DOR. CJ's had a running battle with the DOR. At the end of last week, into this week, into this morning, and he posted a letter that we put together for you guys to send to the DOR, because the DOR basically has the attitude that, hey, we don't care what the people want. It's got nothing to do with, the hell with you people. We're not answerable to you. We're going to certify the tax rate, and, if you're not happy, well, tough.
Yeah, well, Dan Bertrand, who is a member of the executive staff of the Department of Revenue, turned around and told me that they don't answer emails when they go to multiple people. And you know why? Because somebody else may do it. Isn't that government at its best? I'm not going to answer it. Somebody else is going to do that. So I sent via certified mail to the commissioner, Commissioner Mark Nunnally. I sent copies to the city. I sent copies to everyone under the sun of the complaint in regards to the transference of funds in violation of law, also in violation of parliamentary procedure, because they 3 times took a motion and second to table, but Joe Camara felt it was necessary to say, no, somebody else wants to speak, we're going to rescind that. You can't rescind it. Okay, you got to take the vote. End of story. So I sent it out to everyone, and it listed out case law, Silva v. Fall River, and Emerson v. Boston, which defined in detail the definition of a tax and a fee. Also, how that is determined by the courts, which is the governing body in this case. I sent that to Commissioner Nunnally, and guess what? He never returned a phone call. He never sent a letter saying he got it. He never said anything. I called all week. You can't get through to his office directly because you go to voicemail that nobody responds to. So I turned around and I said, well, it's time for me to call somebody who actually can get a hold of this guy. So I called Governor Baker. Governor Baker's office told me at 4 o'clock on Friday that they would send an email over to the commissioner's office forthwith, and he will return a phone call before the end of the day. Guess what? Got no phone call on Friday. Did get one this morning. As a matter of fact, moments before you showed up in the studio, Chip, and not that long ago. And they will have somebody call me back in the next couple of hours because I had to threaten them. And I did. I said very clearly, I said, look, if you don't have somebody get a hold of me to make public hearings in regards to the certification of the Fall River tax rate, which maybe you don't do that. I don't care if you don't do it or not. We want to be heard. I said, I will go into Superior Court. I will get an injunction that will restrict the Department of Revenue's ability to certify tax rates. Well, you know, if you do that and they happen to give it to you, guess what? A lot of cities and towns are going to be very upset because, again, Fall River does what it wants. But, I'm tired of it. I am so tired of it. And, people may say I'm negative. People may say, you're just looking to get your name out there. You're just looking to create a problem. And, you're just looking to make things miserable. No, I'm not. Okay? I'm a taxpayer. I own property. I opted out of the sanitation fund. I opted out of the sanitation fee. I don't need to pay for it. You want to pay for your trash, that's your business. I pay for mine through a private company. My tax dollars, $1.2 million of my tax dollars, okay, are not going to go to pay for sanitation. Because if that's the case, then that sanitation fee is a sanitation tax and is in violation of Mass General Law 59, Section 21C. But people don't want to understand that. Oh, don't make a scene. Don't do that. It's, I don't know. You fight the good fight and nobody backs you up.
Well, it's more than that. People love to waive the Constitution and, I got a right to carry a gun and I got a right to do this and I got a right to do that. Yeah, you do. But you only have those rights when you fight for those rights. And we are, by our Constitution, our state Constitution, it clearly states that they are our agents and at all times accountable to us and answerable to us. But we don't hold them to that standard. Nunley and his numbskulls.
I love that one.
Nunley's numbskulls up at the DOR should take a minute to realize one thing, that they're the Department of Revenue, and we are the revenue. We are the revenue source. How can you have the audacity to think that, number one, even though we're guaranteed it by our own state, or Commonwealth, if you want to be specific, the Commonwealth's Constitution, we are guaranteed accountability? What makes you think the people whose revenue that you are handing out or allowing to be taxed even more with your findings don't have a right to disclosure and to be part of the process? Is this Russia? Are we in a gulag, or are we in a state or a commonwealth? Are we part of a republic, a democratic society? Is our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, are they just window dressing only to be used, on holidays and parades? When people complain about how this country has really gone down the chute, it's because of this. It's because of the fact that rather than fighting with the government, who, by the way, that document that said when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for a people to dissolve their bonds, they forgot that the reason this country was started was because a government was not responsive to the people. It was governing. It's not about Republicans fighting Democrats and being so intractable with your position that you can't vote for something even if it's right if it came from the other party. This is what our government has degenerated into. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we've got someone. I believe the head of the Environmental Affairs Committee in Congress is a person who doesn't believe in global warming. So you wonder why nothing gets done in Washington? So, but it's our fault. I'm not blaming them. They've created their own empire in Washington. The DOR's created their own empire. They get their state paychecks no matter what, and they can be as inflexible as they want because we do not hold them to the fire. And I know a lot of people get upset when there's a little mini revolution. The British took it kind of hard when we rose up back there in the 1700s. They were not real happy campers. They called us, they called us terrorists and rebels, and they were going to hang people, and they did hang people. And that's what happens when a revolution starts. And something, we had a recall a couple of years ago, and that was the beginning of people taking back their government. So for the people who want to, minimize everything, you got to remember, a large victory comes from a bunch of small skirmishes. And these small skirmishes begin with things like this. I think it's wrong. The DOR, the DOR is incredible in their arrogance to think that they do not include us. And it's something I've seen. I mean, go to civil service, go to the Department of Personnel Administration someday and try to get a straight answer. You'll end up in a straitjacket by the time you get out of that building. Because, I'm going to tell you how bad they are. I went to the licensing board up there once to get a license for someone, to get a license. And it was a medical license. And the person was going to begin their practice when he got his license. He had passed all the boards. He had passed everything. He got the notification from the state that he was licensed, and he had to go up and pay his fee, get his license. Now, person's livelihood was involved in this. And we got to Boston because he didn't want to go through the mail. He wanted to get it immediately. We get to Boston, we go into the licensing board, and we say, presents his documentation. And the clerk says, well, I'm sorry, I can't give you your license. And he said, why? He said, oh, the girl that does that is on vacation. And we went, really? You mean to tell me that when she's on vacation, nobody gets a license? Yeah, that's right. You mean there's nobody else in the office that can go over to that drawer or that computer and pull this up, take the money, and give us the license? Nope, we have to wait till she comes back from vacation. So, you know me, I don't take stuff like that very well. So my response to that answer was, well, what happens if she gets hit by a bus while she's on vacation? Is it going to take us a year to train somebody to give the licenses out and nobody will ever get a medical license for a year? This is what government becomes if you allow it to. You walk into these places, and these people that got these jobs, most of whom got them from political connections, because most of those jobs, like the MBTA, there's no test for it. They get appointed to these jobs, and they create these empires where they think they're dictators. I mean, and by the way, we didn't get the license. So, because she was on vacation. And no way, short of going to court, which then would have, by the time we got to court, she would have been back from vacation if she didn't get hit by a bus. But that's what government is. And if you're happy with this state of affairs, fine. But we're not. And I don't think most people are. And when you sit down and think about it, and you say, Jesus, where's all my money go? Well, guess what? This is where it goes. And the DOR is next. Send those emails and letters and phone them. And I know CJ posted that template for a letter. So look it up on our website and raise some hell.
Yeah, it was posted. I also posted the email addresses of Commissioner Nunnally, Daniel Bertrand, Sean Cronin, something Quinn, and
the Eskimo.
and Procher, or Proker, however you say their name, and their phone numbers and their email addresses. They're posted in various groups and Facebook. They are not posted on the Spindle City Straight Talk page because of legal reasons. We cannot get into politics on one side and do other things. We can make comments on it like we're doing here. But it was posted elsewhere. And it creates a situation. And I posted it in a group deliberately of what has been classified as many people in Fall River as the group of griping, haters, and ineffective complaining. I was looking for a good word. With over 11,000 people. Now, that over 11,000 people didn't get out to vote, and we know that, based upon the votes. That 11,000 people did not sign a petition to stop what's going on. We know that because, again, we posted it to their site, and when they signed the petition, we knew who they were. So I can actually tell you how many people from that group signed. And now we've posted this letter with email addresses and phone numbers. And I said very clearly, if you, with over 11,000 members, if you cannot send this email, what good are you? Because they're all Facebook warriors. Hey, Mom, get me a Hot Pocket. I'm being a badass on Facebook. You know, if they can't do that, it'll take 2 minutes out of their day. I sent that email individually because if it's sent to multiple people, we don't pay attention to them. We ignore them. I sent them individually to the commissioner, to Sean Cronin, to Dan Bertrand, to Ms. Quinn, to Proscar, whatever his name is. I sent it to all of them individually. It took me, and I actually started the stopwatch on my computer. It took me 1 minute and 42 seconds. Boy, that's a long time, Chip, isn't it? I mean, my whole day, my whole schedule got thrown out of whack for 1 minute and 42 seconds.
Well, you know, one of the problems we have with people is that people normally go, if it doesn't affect me, I don't care.
Right.
So they don't look at this as having a really dramatic effect, and they wait till something like hits them in the head. Then they begin. As Bonaparte once said, it's fear and self-interest that motivate people. But the fact is that you have to realize this does affect them. It doesn't seem like it, but the reality is that when they're raising this tax rate and they're ignoring the public and won't make public hearings and they won't do what they're supposed to, they're obligated to do by the Constitution, it sets a tone that basically affects the entire way they do business, and it ultimately will get to the point. You know, it's like if you stick your finger with a rusty nail. Is it better to go and get a tetanus shot, or are you going to wait until you get lockjaw? You know, the fact is that you got to nip things in the bud. These small little issues are what really begin to become larger issues. These are the way these empires are created. Because if they can do this in Fall River and set a tax rate on a budget that everybody knows is crap, that means that next year they won't even hesitate. They'll just go, hey, to hell with it. They let us do anything we want in Fall River with not a complaint, and we're just going to continue to do it. And they become more emboldened. And that's the fact. The fact is that if we don't stay angry and stay involved and make sure they don't get away with anything, they become worse. And it's unimaginable how it can get worse. So stay angry, stay involved, send out those emails, and make those calls.
And thanks for watching Spindle City Straight Talk. Greatly appreciate you watching, and as always, have a great day.